He stopped to help change a tire, and she called security. What happens when a black man's kindness is seen as a threat at a gas station? The moment that SUV pulled in, everything changed. Before we begin the story, write in the comments where you're watching us from. It was just after 8 a.m. when I saw her. Little old lady, standing crooked next to a Buick with a tire flatter than a gospel singer's stomach one Easter Sunday. I had pulled into this raggedy gas station off Highway 19, thinking I'd just grab a coffee, fill up, and keep it moving. But something about her, the way she kept wringing her hands and looking around like help was supposed to fall out the sky, made me pause. Now, look, I wasn't out here playing superhero. I was just a man with a socket wrench and a decent sense of decency. Plus, I was already sweaty, and a little kindness never broke nobody. "Ma'am, you need some help with that?" I asked, stepping out the truck. She looked up at me, eyes wide behind those thick plastic frames, like she wasn't sure if I was trouble or a miracle. "Well, I guess I do," she stammered. "I'm not sure what happened. I just pulled in and next thing I know, it was thudding, like I hit a possum." I chuckled softly. "Don't worry. I'll have it swapped out faster than your grandson texts back." I grabbed my tools, knelt beside the car, and got to work. Asphalt was already cooking under my knees, sweat beading on my brow, but I focused in. 1 bolt, 2, 3, easy rhythm. Felt good to help. But of course, peace never sticks around too long. From inside the gas station, I heard the door swing open with that aggressive clang that always says, "Here come the problem." I didn't even need to look up. You know the sound. Flip-flops on concrete, crossed arms, that aura of, "I own this 15 feet of land and you just breathed on it." "You!" I looked up. White woman, early 40s, neon vest, short bob haircut, mouth tight enough to pop a balloon. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" she asked, voice high-pitched like she was talking to a raccoon in her kitchen. I stood up, slowly, calmly, hands still holding the wrench. "Helping her change a tire." She scoffed. "This is private property." I raised an eyebrow. And you can't just be out here messing with cars. You're making people uncomfortable." "Uncomfortable? You got folks out here robbing wallets with gas prices, and I'm the threat?" She didn't laugh. "Figures." The older woman tried to intervene. "He's just helping me, sweetie. I asked him to." The manager snapped. "I wasn't talking to you, ma'am." Now, see that right there? That tone? Like the help had wandered into the lobby and dared to speak. That said something in me to simmer. Still, I kept my cool. "I'm not here to cause trouble," I said. "Just finishing the job." She crossed her arms tighter. "Well, we don't need your type hanging around. You have 5 minutes to leave or I'm calling the police." My type. There it was. Didn't matter that I was helping. Didn't matter I was polite. Didn't matter I was dressed clean. I could have had a tuxedo and Grammy in one hand. I still would have been my type to her. I bent down, tightened the last bolt, wiped my hands on a rag, and looked straight at her. "You call whoever you need." Then I walked to my truck. Calm, measured, but inside, a pressure cooker. Not boiling yet, but heating, second by second. I slid into the driver's seat, shut the door, and just sat there for a moment. Eyes forward, breathing steady. Because here's the truth. This wasn't new. It wasn't even surprising. It was just exhausting. You spend your whole life doing things the right way. Speak clearly, dress sharp, be helpful, keep your hands where folks can see them. And still, you end up standing in a parking lot being told you don't belong. I looked in the rear view. The manager was pacing now, holding the radio like she was commanding a SWAT team. I could have driven off. Most days, I would have. But not this one. I picked up my phone and hit record. My reflection looked back at me. Dark circles under the eyes, jaw tight, voice steady. My name is Cameron B. I just helped a lady fix her tire at a gas station on Highway 19. The store manager threatened to call the police. I'm recording this for my safety. Then I stopped the recording and tapped a name in my contacts. It rang twice. "Yeah," I said when they answered. "She's doing it again. Said I don't belong. Threatened to call the cops because I helped someone." Pause on the other end. "Location?" the voice asked. I gave the address. "Okay. Sit tight." I hung up and just sat there. Funny thing is, that gas station was damn near empty. One old pickup at Pump 3, a minivan near the air machine. But now, all eyes were on me. One guy didn't even pretend not to stare, just leaned on his door, sipping a soda like he was waiting for a halftime show. The lady I helped had already pulled out, gave me a soft wave from her window before she disappeared down the road. She probably felt bad, but she didn't stick around. Can't blame her. This world teaches folks to vanish when things get uncomfortable. 10 minutes crawled like honey in the freezer. Manager still circling, radio in hand, looking like she was ready to shut down the building if I dared blink too hard. I watched her out the corner of my eye. I wasn't scared, but I was tired. Tired of always having to make sure they felt safe, even when I was the one being threatened. I've been that scary black man before, in suits, in jeans, in hospital scrubs. It don't matter what I wear or where I go. Some folks see a shadow before they see a human. She started pointing toward my truck now, talking into the radio, pacing harder, probably rehearsing whatever version of the truth she was about to tell. I cracked my window. "Still here?" she barked. "Still legal," I answered. She scowled. "You think you're clever?" "No, ma'am. Just tired." The radio on her shoulder crackled. She turned away, muttering something. I leaned back in my seat, eyes on the rear view. Felt that pressure behind my ribs, that slow burn kind of heat. Not rage, not panic, just a thick fog of, here we go again. You know what hurts the most? It ain't even her words. It's how normal it all feels. How practiced she is. How automatic her disgust shows up when someone like me dares to take up space. I could see the patrol car approaching from the highway turnoff. And still, I sat. Not because I wanted trouble, but because I wasn't gonna fold. Not this time. I gripped the steering wheel, flexed my fingers, felt the vibration of the engine and the weight of history in my lungs. Let her make a call. I'd already made mine. This is the moment everything flips. Stick around. What's coming next will shake every assumption you thought was safe. I watched her pace back and forth like she owned the concrete, gripping that little black radio like it gave us superpowers. Her back was straight, her chest puffed out, and she kept throwing these glances my way like she was expecting me to combust right there in my truck. It was comical. If the situation hadn't been so loaded, I might have laughed. But I wasn't in the mood for comedy. I was in the mood for accountability. Still, I sat. Hands on the steering wheel, engine humming, the air conditioner rattling like it was on his last breath. My phone sat face down on the passenger seat, screen dark. But it had already done its job. I knew he got the message. So I waited. The manager, she was still flaring up like a faulty spark plug, talking into the radio, squinting toward the road. She'd convinced herself I was the threat. And that right there was the real problem. She didn't just assume the worst, she needed it to be true. There's something about folks like her. They can't stand it when the story in their head doesn't match reality. A black man helping a stranger? That short-circuits the whole system. Another 10 minutes passed. Still no sirens, no flash of red and blue, just heat, sweat, and suspicion. A white pickup pulled in. Young guy hopped out, earbuds in, barely looked around. He walked right past me like I was a trash can on the curb. Went inside for a drink or something, no problem there. But I knew if I stepped out the truck, stretched, and leaned against my door, we'd have a scene. I stayed put. That's the calculation, always. Every move has weight, every glance has consequences, and you don't even get to pick the scale they use. Suddenly, she stormed out of the store again, now with a clipboard. Clipboard, like she was going to document the incident. "You still haven't left?" she snapped. I looked at her. "I'm in a public parking lot." She pointed toward the private property sign with such drama you'd think it was the 10 Commandments. "We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone." I raised a brow. "Even people who don't ask for service?" "You're being confrontational." That one almost got a chuckle out of me. Almost. "I'm sitting in my truck." "You're escalating the situation." "No, ma'am. You're reacting to a situation you created." She stared at me. I stared back. And for a moment, it was just the two of us. Her outrage cracking under its own weight, and my restraint holding the line like a damn levee. Then her radio on her shoulder crackled. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw her freeze mid-step. Her posture changed. Chin dropped half an inch. Shoulders stiffened. That's when I knew somebody else was coming. And it wasn't the local boys. I tapped the phone screen and checked the time. 15 minutes since I made the call. I didn't know who would show up first, hers or mine. But the game had already started. Now it was just a matter of who moved the next piece. Across the lot, the young guy came back out of the store with a drink and chips. He looked at the two of us like he was walking through a movie set he didn't audition for. He ducked into his truck and pulled off, without saying a word. That silence, that was louder than anything. People saw what was happening. They just didn't want to get involved. And that's the sickness. Not always the ones who yell, but the ones who watch and say nothing. I leaned my head back against the seat. The weight of it all hit different when you were still. It wasn't just a moment, it was every moment that came before. Every time I've been followed in the store, every fake smile that crumbled when I pulled out my ID, every time I saw someone lock their door when I walked past. They stacked up, quietly, like bricks in the backpack. And today, the weight of it was sitting in the cab of that truck with me, whispering, "Don't let this one go." I took a breath. Not deep, just steady. And then I saw it. Not sirens, not flashing lights, just a sleek black SUV rolling in from the side street. Tinted windows. Unmarked. It parked across from me. The door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, bald, dark suit in summer heat. He didn't glance around. He didn't hesitate. He walked across the lot like he'd been here before, like he owned situations like this. She saw him too. I saw her shoulders jump before she could turn it into confidence. She tightened her grip on the clipboard and adjusted her vest like it could protect her from whatever was about to happen. He walked right past her, came straight to my window. I rolled it down. "Cameron," he said. Calm, even, like he was checking in, not investigating. "Yeah," I said. "I'm good." He nodded, looked over at her. She was frozen, one foot forward like she wasn't sure whether to retreat or double down. He turned. "Ma'am, we'd like to speak with you for a moment. Inside." She blinked. "Excuse me?" "Inside," he repeated, just loud enough to slice through her pride. Another agent stepped out of the SUV. This one had a tablet in hand. They exchanged glances like they'd already seen the footage. Like this wasn't speculation. It was confirmation. And she knew it. She started in with the excuses. "I didn't mean he was the property. I felt unsafe." But the words tripped over themselves. Her mouth moved faster than her brain could spin a new version of the truth. That's when the officer showed up. Local cop. Uniform wrinkled, sunglasses crooked. He got out like he wasn't sure if he was late or early. He looked around, saw the agents, and slowed his pace. No sirens, no urgency, just recognition. The officer walked up, greeted the agents like old classmates who drifted apart after high school. They motioned him toward the manager. He nodded and followed them inside. I stayed in my truck, still breathing, still steady. The whole station had gone quiet. A minivan 2 pumps down suddenly turned off the music. The old guy who had been staring from behind the windshield dropped his head and pretended to scroll his phone. Funny how people disappear when the tide turns. 10 minutes passed, then 15. No one came back out. Eventually, I opened the door, stepped out, stretched. The sun hadn't gotten any kinder, but the heat felt different now. I walked around the front of my truck, leaned against the hood, and just watched the clouds. I wasn't angry. I wasn't proud. I was just grounded. For once. And in that silence, something settled. Not justice, not yet. But truth? Yeah. It was finally standing on 2 feet. This is the moment everything flips. Stick around. What's coming next will shake every assumption you thought was safe.
The second that door swung open and she stepped out, I knew something had shifted. Her whole posture changed. Gone was that puffed-up confidence from before. Shoulders down, eyes wide, arms now crossed in front of her like she was cold in the middle of July. Behind her, Agent Lawson walked out, calm, controlled, not a bead of sweat on his bald head. The man didn't even blink. You could tell he wasn't just built for this, he lived in it. He stopped just past the doorframe, turned toward me, and nodded once. No words, no grand performance. But that nod, that was it. That was the moment she realized this wasn't gonna be like all the other times she got away with it. You could see it on her face, like a kid caught lying about breaking the window while still holding the baseball. Her mouth opened, then shut, then opened again. She looked at him, looked at me, then back to the ground like it had suddenly become the most fascinating thing in the universe. I stood up slowly, took a couple steps toward the pumps. I wasn't trying to be dramatic, I just needed air. Not because I was nervous, because I wanted to feel this moment. Not for revenge, not for show, but because this time, I wasn't walking away carrying the weight. He turned to her, calm voice, no sarcasm, just professional sharpness. "Ma'am, we'll be filing a preliminary report today. You'll be contacted further." That's all he said. And she just nodded, numb. No fight lift, no speech, no "I didn't mean it." Just a long, painful silence. Behind me, I heard the SUV engine start up. The second agent had already climbed in. He wasn't wasting time. I don't even think he looked at her twice. Lawson followed, but not before saying one more thing to her, quiet enough that I couldn't hear, but loud enough to make her flinch. Whatever it was, it landed. Hard. Then he walked off, door shut. SUV rolled away like it was never there. And just like that, it was over. No handcuffs, no shouting, no spectacle. But that woman, the one who stormed out earlier like she ran the whole zip code, was standing alone on the sidewalk, paler than before, smaller somehow, like her shadow had shrunk. I looked over at the old guy still pretending to scroll his phone. He glanced up, met my eyes for half a second, then quickly looked back down. Funny how fast people lose their voice when the scales tip. I walked back to my truck, took my time. My boots sounded louder now, even though nothing had changed, or maybe everything had. Before I climbed in, I turned around, looked at her one more time. She didn't say a word, didn't move. She just stood there like she was hoping someone would come rewrite the last 30 minutes for her. But no one did, and I wasn't going to. I got behind the wheel, started the engine, and sat there, not out of hesitation, just to breathe, deeply, honestly, like my lungs finally remembered what that was supposed to feel like. You see, folks love to talk about how things always work out in the end, but they don't know what it costs to get there. They don't know how many times we bite our tongues raw or carry ourselves like glass just to survive the week. They don't see what it takes to not break down in the parking lot of a gas station when someone looks at you and decides you don't belong in a space your taxes paid for. But today I didn't have to fold. I didn't have to explain myself or shrink down to make someone else feel okay. I just had to stand still and let the truth show up. I put the truck in drive and eased off the lot. No burnout, no victory music, just motion. A few cars passed in the opposite direction. One driver glanced over, eyes tracking me, maybe recognizing something had happened here, or maybe not. Either way, I didn't need them to understand. This story wasn't for them. As I merged back onto Highway 19, the heat shimmered off the asphalt ahead, stretching like a long ribbon of clarity. The kind you don't get often, but when you do, you remember it. Every second, every face, every silence that finally spoke the truth, and every inch of ground you refused to give up, even when they told you it wasn't yours to stand on. If you're still here, you know what this means. And if you feel what I feel right now, then you already know. This wasn't just about one gas station. It never is.